Welcome to our podcast, The Nahda Narratives, where each week our panel of avid students of Arab literature and politics explore different facets of Egypt's intellectual revolution. For our latest episode, we'll be discussing the progression of feminism and women's rights throughout the Nahda. And today, our panel includes myself, Jinan Ahmed, as well as
Tawheed, Joey,
Farah Abdurrabbu,
and finally, Habiba.
The first thing we're going to talk about is pre-Nahda. Before the Nahda, Egypt, like many societies, was deeply entrenched in patriarchal traditions. Women were largely confined to the private sphere with limited access to education, employment, and political participation. The roles were largely defined by societal expectations and religious interpretations. Yet, with this backdrop of oppression, there were whispers of change. Pre-Nahda, we see glimpses of female agency and resistance. Women played vital roles in family and community life, quality, and challenging societal norms through acts of resilience and determination. The Nahda, meaning awakening in Arabic, marked a period of intellectual and cultural revival in the Arab world during the 19th century. This era of enlightenment brought it with a renewed interest in literature, science, and philosophy, but also ignited discussions on social reform, including women's rights. Influential thinkers and writers such as Naguib Mahfouz, Nazira Zainuddin questioned their traditional interpretations of Islam regarding women's roles and advocated for their education and empowerment. Their writings sparked debates and laid the groundwork for feminist movement that would follow. Women themselves became active participants in the Nahda, defying societal expectations by entering public spaces, forming literacy circles, and advocating for their rights. Figures like Nabawiyya Musa emerged as pioneers challenging gender norms through their writings and activism. Despite facing resistance from conservative forces, these trailblazers persisted, their voices echoing across generations. Their efforts laid the foundation for significant advancements in women's rights, including access to education, legal reforms, and the establishment of women's organizations. As we reflect on the pre-Nahda period in Egypt, we honor the courage and resilience of those who dared to challenge the status quo.
To expand on the key literary figures Habiba mentioned, Naguib Mahfouz was a Nobel Prize-winning Egyptian author renowned for his insightful portrayals of Egypt's society, and he captured its complexities, contradictions, and evolving norms in his work. So while Mahfouz's earlier works don't really overtly engage with feminist themes, his depiction of women characters often reflects the societal roles and challenges they faced during the Nahda. Although the Nahda period witnessed several advancements in women's education and participation in public life, patriarchal structures were still exercised, limiting women's agency and opportunities. Naguib Mahfouz challenges the Egyptian patriarchal structure through his characters such as Noor from The Thief of Dogs and Amina from the Cairo trilogy. Noor is a prostitute that contradicts the traditional lustful and greedy stereotype of a prostitute, as she was simply a smart and devoted woman who was always just hoping to live a simple life of love and comfort that her circumstances never allowed for. As for Amina, Mahfouz uses her character to explore themes of resilience, empowerment, and the quest for autonomy amidst the patriarchal structures. Nazira Zainuddin was also someone I wanted to bring up, as she was a brilliant writer of her time. She challenged the imposition of the face veil, or also known as the niqab, which is mandated by Syria for all women in public spaces. She confronts religious authorities to provide a fatwa, which is a legal ruling, for the obligation of the niqab derived from the Sharia, which means the infallible set of laws in the Quran, which is essentially God's word and undebatable. Zainuddin emphasizes the distinction between the veil itself and the enforced mandate, and she advocates for the right to choose without state intervention or societal pressure, which is also what Islam prescribes, that certain obligations, the decision to adhere to them, remains personal and not governmental. Her main position on individual autonomy is summarized by a quote from her that goes as follows: "Freedom of thought is the right of individuals to implement their beliefs regarding their well-being and that of others without fear or coercion, unobstructed by the interventions of authorities or by the hatred and visceral reactions of the masses."
So for me, the most striking part was the one about the contemporary Egyptian feminist movements and the counter-feminist movement. I think because it parallels the American contemporary feminist identity struggle, even the timelines are pretty similar. These dilemmas are faced by feminists. Do you try and acquire power without changing hearts and minds, or do you prioritize hearts and minds, and specifically, whose hearts and minds? The reactionary sentiment that's mirrored today, it's never gone away. Like the one in Egypt, you always have people, as with the Muslim Sisters and the Muslim Brotherhood political party, who try to appease those in power in order to obtain power. But not everyone can be a politician, and their possible constituents, women, didn't benefit from their political compromise, and their other constituents, conservatives, didn't like women. And the Muslim Brotherhood itself didn't respect them, so in trying to take this particular route to reducing sexism, they guaranteed that they would never have the political power to do so. I think an interesting part is also when the Egyptian feminists during the youth movement appealed to traditional values of men protecting women to try and mobilize men to help their cause. And this failed because sexist social values are a contract. If you break your obligation to be less than men, then men lose their obligation to protect you, or even their obligation to not hurt you. So using that system of values, men had no obligation to protect women like her. So it might have worked better if they appealed to some other value, but I really can't blame them for trying this tactic. In the U.S., these are the same dilemmas that our own feminist movement struggles with. Women in political parties have greatly limited ability to change their own party, like the sisters, even in parties that aren't right-wing. On the other hand, I think a key difference is that in the U.S. we've wholly quit with appealing to the traditional value of men protecting women. Because of the thing I pointed out, but also because men don't protect women. That part of sexist values is just fake, which, all the more reason to fight for equality.
Post-2011, Egypt presents a complex environment for Islamic feminism scholars and activists, including prominent figures like Abu Bakr and Saleh, despite initial collaboration and visibility after the revolution. Subsequent political changes and backlash against gender-specific reforms have tested their resilience. Suspicions from some secular women rights groups, such as those represented by Abdul Fadl Association for Studying Women in Civilization, questioning the capability of Islamic feminism with broader feminist goals, add to the difficulties. Moreover, traditional religious scholars, like those within Al-Azhar, contest their authority and methodology, complicating their position further.
To sum up everything we've talked about in our podcast, the journey of feminism in the Arab world has been a testament to resilience and progress. From the seeds of resistance sown before the Nahda to the flourishing of organized movements during the Nahda, and into the complexities of modern-day activism, the trajectory of women's rights advocacy has been marked by courage and determination. Before the Nahda, individual actions and localized movements laid the groundwork for feminist thought and advocacy. During the Nahda, influential thinkers and writers sparked discussions on social reform, including women's rights, paving the way for organized feminist movements. In contemporary Egypt, modern feminist movements grapple with political participation and societal resistance, facing the challenge of acquiring power while striving to change hearts and minds. As we reflect on this journey, we're reminded of the ongoing struggle for gender equality and the importance of collective action. Join us next time on Nahda Narratives as we continue to explore the rich tapestry of Arab intellectual and cultural history.